Good evening, everybody. We have a very, very special guest tonight. This is my good buddy Derek Dunn. He's a Flyers fan, and he has a very in-depth perspective of the team. I really like his content. Him and I, we're actually kind of similar. We're both pretty analytically driven, but at the same time, we don't let a chart fool our eyes what we actually see when we watch the games. So this should be a really interesting discussion. Derek, go ahead and introduce yourself and all that good stuff.
Yeah, good to be here. I do have the distinct misfortune of being a fan of the Philadelphia Flyers. It's not an easy job, and we were just talking about before we came on the air that not only is the team not the easiest to follow, the social media side of the fan base is a lot like let's just say internecine third world battles.
Yeah.
But he had a great description of my content. I do try to be analytically driven. I try to make sense of the numbers with what's actually happening on the ice. I try to understand why the numbers are telling me certain things and what players are doing or not doing to achieve these results. And amid all of that, I try to be entertaining. So I'll have a number of bits that may or may not be completely appropriate for most hockey circles. I don't know if I'm making a lot of friends by accusing the head coach of being the Antichrist, but we're rolling with it, brother. It's a funny bit, and it's just one example of the many. I joked at the close of the podcast I did with the Liberty Yell yesterday that, Danny, please, the next coach you hire, I'm not making any insinuations here, whether it's in a week or 2 years. The next coach you hire, please make it somebody I like, because I am running out of escalations. I called towards a terrorist relentlessly, and then I had to escalate for Rick Tocchet. Now I'm calling him the Antichrist. I don't know where I go from there.
You've already kind of hit the nuclear option. You're running out of stuff there. It's kind of the same thing with me with I've got the baseline China post, and then beyond that, I've never thought about things are not that bad for me, but I'm like, if I have to go beyond this, what else is there? Because I have to start thinking about that.
I will occasionally just look at a map of all the countries in the world and be like,
just start picking a new one every time.
Owen Tippett today.
What is worse than China? There's a few out there. Oh, dude, I think I'd rather live in Azerbaijan than China because, funny story. We were watching, me and my girlfriend were watching a documentary about some of the N units they rent out to people in China. It's barely big enough to fit a human in there. I don't think I would fit in one. It's got a sideways mounted TV and a bed that's about this wide. And it costs like $50 American a day, which in China, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So there are worse places to go than China, but not many.
Yeah, not many. You're looking at a lot of countries in Africa, maybe. About it.
But dude,
it was especially rural China. I will occasionally specify if I'm super angry at a player, I will not let them go to one of the cities. They are going to rural China.
Send them to guard the Great Wall. Have to deal with tourists. They have to learn a bunch of different languages in one day. Yes. Yeah, it's just, but yeah, there's times where I don't get that mad at a lot of players, but there's times where I'm like, it's like the closest it came was Svechnikov. That was the closest I've came to it recently, where I was like, get him out of here. And I was like, okay, hold on. He's having a rough, it's bad because on the other side of that, it's like now people are hating on Aho really bad. And I'm like, dude, he's like literally our franchise player. He's had one bad month. He just had a kid who's about 1 year old. So he has to, do what he can with that. And so when he's on the road, that's got to be tough for him. And it's like, I'm like, yo, guys, pump the brakes. It's like, did we learn nothing from Eric Stahl? Like the amount of hate he caught, and I was part of that. And that's why I'm like, I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy again. So yeah, it's like, but I understand that entirely. But I think the biggest thing that's kind of weird with the Flyers is you guys are right at that spot where you can go up and really, really be a playoff team and eventually a competitive team, or you're going to just hang out in that type of purgatory for a little while, one of the two. Whatever your thoughts are on that. I mean, you're way more in touch with them than I am.
What I would say is there is a lot of angst. Well, there's always a lot of angst in Flyers land. Who am I kidding? But there's more angst in Flyers land than usual because the fan base and the organization seem to have fundamentally different viewpoints of where the team is. As in, I think the fan base is all in on like, it's not that they have to tank. It's more so that I want to see Trevor Zegras at center and Michkov playing like he's a number one defenseman, getting 22 minutes a night for no damn reason. And
Mhm.
if he somehow manages to turn that into a great team because he's in the damn Art Ross race like Bedard and Celebrini, then cool. Okay. If we don't tank because those two are doing cool stuff all the time and Vladar's hitting us with a 915, I'm totally happy. I totally good with that. But the organization is in a place where they believe now we have to make the playoffs at all costs. Every point matters. You'll probably notice this whenever you watch them play. And I noticed it watching these two games. If they are in a tied game state, if they are not chasing the game, they are practically punting the game. They will do everything they can to get it to overtime. And once they're finally in overtime, they will just straight up punt overtime to get into the shootout. It is honestly one of the least ethical hockey teams I've ever watched. Like, they're specifically trying not to play hockey. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, if you told me the Carolina Hurricanes would have won 3 shootouts in a row, I would have been like, yeah, you need to lay off the drugs, pal. Like, I would have never believed that. And now and the way that they won them too. 0 for 3 on one end and 1 goal by Carolina. They never win them that way. They never win them at all, but they definitely don't win them that way. Like, that was foreign to me.
It was pretty funny because here you guys are taking down like the titans of the shootout. I mean, I'm not even surprised that they were 5-0 in shootouts prior to this. Like they collected the Justice League of the shootouts between Secrets and Michkov, and Harrison is the best goalie on earth when there isn't
the Justice League of the shootout. That is amazing. That's the best way to describe it.
I'm not surprised that they're winning a bunch of shootouts because they went and collected the 87 Oilers as it pertains to the shootout specifically.
They did. They really did, because it's like I sit there and I look at that and I'm like, okay, so Zegras, Drysdale, Tippett, like all these guys that you could put up in the shootout, and I'd be like, oh God. Like, but then it's like, then it actually unfolds that way. And I'm like, no way this actually just happened. I could not believe it went down that way. I really couldn't.
Zegras flubs it. Michkov forgets how to do shootouts.
Yeah, I was really surprised that went down the way that it did. But we'll get to some of the comments here, and then I've got the little slides here and everything where we can talk about each game individually and talk about some other stuff, whatever you want to do. Cavery, what's up, buddy? Howdy. Oh, by the way, guys, if you don't follow Derek, I highly recommend it. His @ is suitable alias. Like, literally, that's what it is. What's up, y'all? How we doing tonight? Celebrating burgers tonight for dinner. Awesome.
Fantastic.
When the waiver claim you got 4 days before the season accidentally becomes the best player on the team, that's literally what happened. Like, if you take Bussy out of the equation, the Canes are in 3rd at best. And that's if everything else just unfolds the way that it did. Hurricanes being 4-1 in the shootout feels like whiplash to see. Yeah, it's unbelievable, dude. I was not expecting that. The Magic Bus. There he is. What's up, buddy? Grayson, what's up, dude? Thoughts on Bussy getting both Florida games? Wait, that's not happening. If it does, that's a bad decision. I would not do that. Not when you have 2 other goalies you could potentially use, and it's not a divisional game, and Florida's like not a threat to you in the standings. I would not do that.
Yeah, and I still think Kochekov has a bunch of upside, so I'm not like hesitating to put him in the net ever. Mm-hmm. Now, I also think Bussy's been great for you guys. He was great in the game he played. So you guys, as far as I'm concerned, have 3 goalies that you could go to, and I'm not worried about any single one of them. I do at this point probably view Anderson as the 3rd guy, but I don't think the organization is going to rush to that conclusion as quickly as I have.
Yeah, that was the thing. That was something I was talking about on here a few days ago. I'm like, the goaltending depth chart before Bussy came in, and no one expected this to happen, obviously, was Anderson and Kochekov, whatever order you want to put those 2 in, 40 feet of air, and then everybody else, Niftakov, Frolov, whoever. Bussy's filled that gap with the 40 feet of air. And then now he's, until otherwise proven, he's the number one guy. And, it's like people are like, oh, we can't carry three goalies. It's unconventional. I'm like, well, this is the Carolina Hurricanes we're talking about. Doing things unconventionally is kind of their thing. So, you can still have, your extra forward, your extra defenseman and carry three goalies. There's 23 roster spots. That's totally doable. So, like, if any team is going to carry three goalies like the entire time, it would be the Hurricanes. And then, let's say you have a situation in the playoffs, especially where, Bussy and Kochekov both go down. Anderson being your third guy, you could do worse. You could have a Zamboni driver or, an accountant being your third guy. I mean, granted, you have an actual legitimate NHL goalie in the playoffs, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's not the worst third option at all.
Yeah, absolutely not. And unfortunately, you guys have been cursed at some point with goalie health from hell. It's basically every season that one or both of your goalies is going down. I thought it was a Ranta thing, but no, it's not. It's an everybody thing. Anderson is developing new ways to get injured every year. Kochekov, what the hell happened to his leg? I still haven't figured that out this year.
Yeah. Oh, and that's actually a good comment right there, Daniel. Anderson is who I would like to see play in Nashville tomorrow night. I think that's a good opportunity. And then the other thing we have to remember about the schedule, and we're going to see it more with it going to 84 games, especially the Olympic break. Just like last year with the Four Nations break, the schedule is super compacted. So carrying three goalies, I don't think it's going to become like the industry standard, but I don't think the Hurricanes are going to be the only team to do it now. I really don't.
I mean, Buffalo's doing it. Probably not good for their organizational health like it is for Carolina, but they are doing it.
Obviously, Bussy has his role now, but I still want to offer Freddie respect. Yeah, and I think tomorrow would be a good day for him to play. I really do, because as we've seen, Bussy's still young, so you want to manage his load a little bit. And Kochekov, like he was just talking about, the injury proneness is still there. I mean, some of those he does to himself, like the New Year's Eve game in Columbus, I think it was last year. He leaned his head all the way over the post, and then somebody ran into him. I can't remember who it was, and gave him a concussion. I'm like, boss, you kind of brought that on yourself. It's like the first time I took my dog in my mom's backyard, and he was just happy as he be. He's just running and running and running. He goes around the corner, and he runs into this big oak tree and knocks himself out. And I was like,
one of my favorite goalies in the league to watch, Kochekov, and it is partly because of that aggression that he plays with. Like it. I very much enjoy players who have an artistic side to them, where they manage to be good at the sport in an unconventional way. And Kochekov is very much like that, because most goalies, what you're looking for is how composed they look in the net and how calm they look, and whether or not they can make the position efficient. Whereas Kochekov is just like, no, I am going to dial up the chaos to 12. But this is where I'm comfortable. You're locked in here with me. I'm not locked in here with you.
And see, that's one thing I do respect about Kuch's game, because like goalies, a friend of mine who plays goalie, him and I played together. We've talked about this before. One day I'm going to have him on here. He's a big Rangers fan. He's a really cool guy named Steve. He said that goalies, they kind of all look the same now. Like their mechanics are almost identical from goalie to goalie. You don't see a whole lot of nuance there. And then in comes Pyotr Kochekov, who just completely upsets that standard in every way imaginable. And the only other guy I think that does that is Bennington.
Yeah. It's very unique. And I'm not surprised that there's some ups and downs, because you're going to have to rein it in at points, but you're also going to have to let Kuch be Kuch. I'm not surprised that it's taking him a couple of years to really figure out what works and what doesn't. But I think he will figure that out. He's still pretty young, right? It's like 25, I think.
Yeah, for a goalie maybe? Especially, he's young, because goalies don't normally hit their ceiling until 27, 28.
Yeah, exactly. So he's still got a little bit of time here to really be impressive. And I think he's got a little bit of Bobrovsky syndrome, where I don't expect him to fall off as fast as most goalies, because everybody looks at it like, oh, because he doesn't rely on athleticism, then he probably will probably age better. I almost look at it like the opposite, where these goalies who are hyper athletic have so much to give on that side of it, that they're, even when they lose a step, they're still a step ahead athletically. And I think Kochekov could carve out a career for himself like that, like Bobrovsky has, where he's 37 and you wouldn't know it.
I could definitely see that, because the dude is an animal athletically. And then when you're talking about season being a little bit longer now and everything, because it's just 2 games, it's going to feel like a lot more than just 2 games, especially when you do it over and over again. But it's like, I'm wondering if the only thing is with me in the 84 game season, I already feel like the best team doesn't win the Stanley Cup all that much anyway. And I think that's going, I'll give it to Florida. I think the best team won both of those times. I legitimately do. But there's been other times where I'm kind of like, did the best team actually win, or did they just play well at the right time? And did they do well in the playoffs? That's my whole thing about it. It's like a lot of times with longer seasons like this, the best team doesn't always win, but that's just my particular mindset on that. Let's see if this will load here. Alrighty. So normal, don't sue me slide. Please feel free to, pause it here if you need to see it, that I'm just citing my sources here and everything like that, so I don't get sued by anybody. Alrighty, so the first game, the one that took place in Philadelphia, final score of 4-3, 2.95 to 1.75 on the expected goals. All goals in regulation were scored 5-on-5. Expected goals 5-on-5 were 194 to 155. Carolina did not take any penalties. The Flyers took 2 minors. Carolina did not score on the power play. No shorthanded goals. Shot attempts were 68 to 30. Shots blocked, Carolina only blocked 3 out of Philadelphia's 30 attempts, and the faceoff percentages heavily favored Philadelphia, 56.5 to 43.5. Scoring summary, Bobby Brink scored at 10:04, assisted by Trevor Zegras and Travis Sanheim. Trevor Zegras would then score at 17:34, assisted by Travis Connecting and Jamie Drysdale. In the second period, Ehlers would score at 9:11, assisted by Shane Gostisbehere. Alexander Nikishin scored at 14:12, assisted by Jordan Nish. How did that end up? Okay, that's supposed to say Joel Nystrom. I think it auto-corrected on me. I know who Joel Nystrom is. Taylor Hall, and then in the third, you had Seth Jarvis, 12:26 from Andrei Svechnikov and Shane Gostisbehere, and then Philadelphia would tie it up on Carl Grundstrom's goal on the 2-on-1, 12:49, assisted by Rodrigo. I think that, like, the autocorrect hit me.
Rodrigo Abels.
Who the hell is that even trying to say it is? Okay. And Noah Jolson, shootout. Jackson Blake scored the only goal in the shootout. Goalie statistics, Pyotr Kochekov, 15 for 18, 3 goals against, 8.33 save percentage. Samuel Ersson, 18 for 21, 3 goals against, and an 8.57 save percentage. Derek, what did we think about this game?
Okay, I had to go back. I was sitting there with a stunned look on my face for when you first showed the original.
You want me to bring it back
slide. Up? Yes, and part of this was me, because I was sitting there. If you look at the 5-on-5 expected goals, it looks like okay, that's a reasonably close affair. And then you look at the all situations expected goals, and Carolina adds 1 and Philly adds nothing. I was sitting here trying to figure out how the hell that happened, but it does help that Carolina had 2 power plays and Philly had none.
That's the biggest reason why, I think.
Yeah.
Because I double-taked on that, too, when I was uploading the stuff from Natural Stat Trick. I'm like, that can't be right. And then I looked at it again, and I'm like, that's exactly what it said.
You know what I thought it was at first? I thought they punted overtime so hard. And this almost mixed with my observations, but I thought they punted overtime so hard that Carolina got like 1.25 expected goals out of that situation.
Well, actually, we have a way to look at that. Stand by. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. All right.
Of course, the shot blocks, 21 shot blocks, expected goals do not calculate blocked shot attempts. So even that being somewhat close is probably a artifice of that.
Hold up. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I'll have this pulled up, actually, because this is a
I will fill some airtime with from what I remember of this game, and it's been a little bit now, the first period was it didn't look like Carolina really showed up that period.
Oh, honestly. No, they sucked. They absolutely sucked.
A lot of people on Flyers side were like, wow, look at the Flyers navigating the Hurricanes forecheck. And I was kind of sitting there going, what forecheck? I don't think the forecheck showed up. I don't think any element of Carolina's game showed up. They were allowing Philly to do pretty much whatever they wanted. And granted, it's not a big shock that Trevor Zegras was really the only one that took advantage. That's basically how this goes. If the other team doesn't show up defensively, you are going to get a pass more often than not against the Flyers, because there's only a few guys who are really going to punish that at this point. Everybody else is playing a sickeningly safe brand of hockey. It's why You were talking about how they had like a mile of space on that zone entry that
Yeah,
Seabird had on the
I
first
was
goal.
pissed about that. Oh my god, I was mad.
And when I saw the replay, I was like, yeah, you know what? He should be pissed. Watching that live, I was like, oh my God, what an oppressive zone entry. Because, like, that does not happen all that often in
Yeah,
Philly
when you see
land.
the
So I was like, oh my God,
when
yes.
you see the defense back off that much because they can't gap up because nobody's getting back on them, like, but yeah, you're right. So if you look at the expected goals here, in the we'll look at the Flyers column. So this one right here that says XGA would be relevant to the Hurricanes, where that difference was really made. You had 0.09 expected goals for the Flyers and 0.24 for Carolina, all
Insane.
situations in overtime.
5 minutes of 3-on-3, and you find a way to create less than a tenth of an expected goal.
Yeah,
There
and that
was
was
a
with Aho making that really bad turnover too, which when that happened, I was like, well, that's game. Like,
It's funny because I was sitting there going, he had that one defensive breakdown that you had broken down, and other than that, I was like, okay, Aho doesn't look that terrible. He looks like kind of okay. And then he made that turnover, and I was like, oh, so that's why there's angst about Aho in Carolina.
that's kind of what he's been doing lately, man. I mean, I'm sure he'll work through it. Everybody goes through this. It's just, I think people just aren't used to it going on this long. It's
He's
like
been carrying the franchise for how long?
7 years.
I
Yeah,
think the biggest takeaway is not that Sebastian Aho is struggling. It's that Sebastian Aho is struggling, and it has not affected the Hurricanes as a team very much at all.
yeah,
And obviously, Bussy stepping up has been a big part of that and solidifying the crease when the other goalies were intermittently dying. But another big part of that is now all of a sudden you have guys like Seth Jarvis stepping up, who I said on the Flyer Side podcast yesterday, the Liberty, that dude looks like a franchise winger emerging. And at this point, he might be the best player on the Hurricanes, even when Aho finds his form again, which is not an indictment of Sebastian Aho, but simply Seth Jarvis looks that good.
yes.
It's almost a crime that he has less than 10 assists on the year, because he will routinely make plays that drop my jaw when I watch him. He is a ridiculously exciting offensive player, a true dual threat, and he's managed to blend the doggedness that you typically associate with Carolina with the high pace skill that you typically don't associate with Carolina in this most recent mold. And that, I think I'd say that about a lot of people on the team. Jackson Blake is another one. Where did you guys find him? That is not a Hurricanes player that I remember, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
When,
I mean, he's also the guy that finished second in the Hobie Baker to Macklin Celebrini, and nobody was going to beat him. But being within 40 feet of air of Macklin Celebrini is an accomplishment at any level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he brings a breath of fresh air to the team when I'm watching them. He's really fun, shifty, skilled. Love it. And the whole team's kind of playing with that way. The way I described it was they've always played with pace away from the puck. They've always been this high pressure on you at all times sort of team. But right now they're playing with pace when they have the puck. And they look incredibly dangerous compared to what they looked like a year ago or 2 years ago. This team looks like a team I could see doing damage in the playoffs, especially because Florida does not look to be, they won't be the Panthers that they were of the last 2 years. Maybe they come back this coming next year, but the East is wide open for them this year. I would be licking my chops as a Hurricanes fan. I don't even know how you guys would have drama. Like, Slavin's been hurt too. This was when he came back.
Yeah.
And you guys are at the top of the Eastern Conference? What are you doing over there? Like, what? How do you have it this good? What did Tulski do?
Yeah, see, the thing is, it's like people ask me before the season started, they're like, is this the year? And I said, trade deadline pending, no. Now, if they add another piece, that will be, that's like my one. I described it the other night on a stream with how, like, when they were struggling a little bit during that homestand. I said, and the only reason I had this idea is me and my girlfriend were watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation the other day. And the part where he's outside working with, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the part where he's outside working with the Christmas lights. And you remember in those old Christmas lights, if one bulb burned out, the whole thing quit. And I'm like, that's kind of where the Canes are at right now. They've had one bulb go out, and the rest of it's just not working. It'll get fixed. It'll get sorted out. But what you're saying about Seth Jarvis, it's like it's spot on, because the way I've always described it, your most complete player on that team is Aho, like the one who's going to give you the most at both ends of the ice. As far as God-given talent, that's Jarvis. And, your most consistent guy is clearly Slavin. So, like, they've all got different roles. And, it's like people are like, well, why don't you bring in, like, another center with Aho? Like, and, that's why I talk about Robert Thomas so much. And I'm like, nobody would be happier about that than Aho, because of the workload he's had to take on for years. And it's finally kind of taking its toll on him, because, like, when you don't have that center that goes in between him and the Stahl line, that's some of the slack Jordan Stahl is picking up. And a lot of it Aho's picking up, and they're not going to meet in the middle forever. Eventually, you have to fill that gap.
Exactly. And you can start looking for opportunities to put Aho in advantageous situations instead of looking for places where Aho is going to fill a gap. There's two kinds of playing a ton of minutes. There's playing a ton of minutes because you are always hunting for an advantageous matchup. Like, the most extreme version of this is Ovechkin in Washington right now. Carberry has done a great job just finding him not only the easiest minutes imaginable for an NHL player with his volume, but keeping that volume around 18 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Sebastian Aho is kind of on the opposite side of that, where he is playing at whatever he's playing a night. It's probably around 20.
He's close to 20.
Yeah. And those 20s are going to be pretty hard, because it's going to be probably half of the 5-on-5 defensive situation matchups, depending on Jordan Stahl, and then half penalty kill. And then, yes, also he has to score on top of that. Adding anybody to take some of that load off anywhere would be a welcome respite for Sebastian Aho.
Yeah, that's why I talked about, like, moving Jesperi Kotkaniemi's contract out to bring in Philip Deneau. I'm like, that's a couple of minutes a night you're going to take off of Aho on the penalty kill. And it's like, and it's just like, when I bring that up, people are like, oh, how does that make the team better? I'm like, you're giving your best player, your most complete player, as you put it, a respite from having to carry everything that he's having to carry. And, it's like, a lot of people expect Aho to be like in the same company as McKinnon and McDavid and all those guys, and that's not fair. He's more like Kopitar and Bergeron and Barkov. He's more in that type of territory as far as what you're going to get out of him.
He's undersized. It's so hard for people to accept that undersized players can actually be that level of defensive presence. I'm going to assume that's a part of it. I think it is. You can overcome it eventually. I think he will overcome it eventually. Certainly, if he gets a ring, people will stop talking about it a lot. Yeah. But the last truly undersized two-way center that I think got a lot of credit for it is obvious. Does it really go back to Datsuk? I think it goes back to Datsuk.
Probably.
And
I would say.
Even
he had 3 Selkies in a row or something.
Yeah. And even him, my little Datsuk headcanon isn't even that he was like, there's two kinds of defense, where there's like attempting to play defense via taking the puck from everybody. And then there's actually attempting to suppress chances via controlling the puck and managing the puck. Datsuk found a way to just achieve perfect defensive results just by taking the puck from everybody at all times, and then still did the most creative thing you would ever think of on the other side, not worrying about a turnover.
Yeah.
And that probably helped his reputation, because it's like, yeah, of course he's such a great defensive player. He's leading the league in takeaways every year. Whereas Aho's offensive game has always been somewhat understated, partly because he's managing the puck like Bergeron might. He's definitely more skilled than he plays like he is.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because he doesn't attempt to take the chances that true offensive players often do.
No, I absolutely agree with that. That's why it's like getting somebody to take that workload off of him a little bit would be very, very helpful. So that actually reminds me of something. So you guys had a pretty big off season. What do you think so far of all your acquisitions, primarily Trevor Zegras, who has grown on me, because I didn't like him when he was in Anaheim. He's actually grown on me a little bit. Like I still like am laughing at that. Whoever that was, he got into it with where he was trying to do the bark thing at him, and the guy just didn't move. That was hilarious.
That was so funny. I've always been a Trevor Zegras sort of supporter because I think he's always been misunderstood, and I followed him as a prospect. So it was often me going back to what he was as a prospect and incorporating that with what he did in Anaheim. Whereas I think a lot of NHL people, like the guy he was in Anaheim, sort of took over the image of Trevor Zegras for them in their minds. And that guy does look a lot different, but I think that was just a total product of environment. Yes, Trevor Zegras in Anaheim basically just ran around trying to dangle everybody and get in Instagram for a night, because what else were the Anaheim Ducks doing on any given night? Were they actually winning games? No, of course not. Would they have won games if Trevor Zegras wasn't trying to produce Instagram clips? No, of course not.
No.
So,
he's got, the guy's got a life. He's got to be able to do stuff, away from the rink. It's like they always talk about, oh, well, players, we care about their mental health. All right, then let them do shit they want to do when they're not playing. That's not hurting anybody.
He has a personality. He has a personality on the ice. Frankly, my one criticism of Trevor Zegras this year, because he has been phenomenal, obviously. My one criticism of Trevor Zegras this year isn't even really a criticism of Trevor Zegras, which is I feel like he could be more creative than he has been. Like a lot of his points right now, he's hovering just over a point per game. And a lot of that's frankly due to the puck luck being on his side to start the year here. If he keeps up this level of play, I don't think he can keep up a point a game season, but I think he can produce as a talent a point per game in the role he's in if he opens things up and shows some of the more really high level puck skills that he showed in Anaheim. And if he does that, then yeah, that he's going to be one of the most fun Flyers to ever wear the uniform. I don't know that he will, because I know who's coaching the team. Yeah, so that was Trevor Zegras. We obviously made more off-season additions. Do we want to talk about Vladar and the other guys?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, it's just because you've indulged talking about the Canes a bunch, and I wanted you to be able to talk about your team too, because like the Flyers are very interesting to me. And one last thing on Zegras, I think that it really helps him to be back with Drysdale because of how good friends they are and everything. Like I think that did a ton for him.
And York, he's
that's too. Cam York,
that national team with Hughes and York and Caulfield and Boldy. I think having one of those guys around has really helped him. And then he's mixed in the rest of the locker room really well. One of the running jokes is that he's one of the few people who speaks English that likes Matvei Michkov. It's not even his fault. It's not Michkov's fault. But like,
no.
You would, a lot of the team right now has been side-eyeing that kid, run by Sean Couturier, but I'm not going to get too far into that. But Zegras, you'll see he and Michkov have been playing around at practices a lot, and they have this really funny relationship. He's mixed into the locker room fantastically. I will say that surprised me a little bit. What Zegras is doing as a player has not surprised me one bit.
Mm-hmm.
But what Zegras has brought to the locker room, yeah, I knew he had Drysdale and I knew he had York, but just how seamlessly he's fit in that way off the ice has been really impressive to me, including how quickly he's gotten into the good graces of the Antichrist.
Like you said, running out of escalations, because that's about as far as it goes. Okay, so keep it going. I'll be right back with you. I got to turn the mic and the camera off for just 1 second.
All right, yeah, no problem. So we'll go into Dan Vladar. I think at a certain point, when the Flyers stop winning games, it'll probably be because Dan Vladar stopped playing as well as he has. The local guys have made a very big deal of the summer improvements he's made on his lateral movement, exploding from post to post. And those are definitely real. He's made a lot of plays where he's almost Vasilevsky style erasing east-west chances. I can't imagine that Dan Vladar went from a below average east-west goalie to Andrei Vasilevsky in that category. So that's probably going to regress at a certain point. And then once he's no longer in the Vezina conversation, he'll still be in the good goalie conversation. Like he will definitely be above expected. And that in and of itself is an incredible, miraculous thing to happen in Philadelphia, because just this time last year, the the race for goaltenders was, can they be the worst goaltending tandem of all time? I think they achieved the mission. It's a little hard because you can only take the expected goals numbers back to '07 or '08, but I think more or less they have achieved being the worst goaltending tandem of all time before Dan Vladar showed up. Dan Vladar shows up, he takes over the number one, and he's been fantastic. And then it's allowed Sam Ersson, who was at one point very much a part of the worst goaltending tandem of all time. He is all of a sudden a serviceable backup. I haven't checked his numbers recently. I think he's hovering below expectations, but not egregiously so. And then let's see, that the goaltending spiel kind of naturally ends there. The other addition would be Christian Dvorak. I think Rick Tocchet loves Christian Dvorak more than I do, but mostly because Rick Tocchet loves Christian Dvorak more than he loves his children, if he has any.
Hold up, I'm trying to get this thing fixed. Give me 1 sec.
Oh yeah, you're all good. I am very happy with how Christian Dvorak has played, especially because he's been given one hell of a role that he probably should not be playing. I mean, this guy was Montreal's 4C last year, and he was not excelling in those minutes. So for him to come to Philly this year, be almost the 1C, we looked it up, he is...
There we go. Got it fixed.
Technically the 2C. He's technically playing a few seconds less than Couturier, but man, it's close. And he's filled into that role very admirably. I think everybody's one complaint with Christian Dvorak has been that because he's playing center, because Rick Tocchet will never change that, it has kept Trevor Zegras from playing center, and that's kind of a problem. It's a problem for the long term, because Trevor Zegras at wing is an interesting player in Philadelphia. Trevor Zegras at center is a revealing player in Philadelphia. Trevor Zegras at center changes things in Philadelphia. If he was doing exactly what he's doing now, but as a center, we are in nirvana. But as a wing, he's just kind of another body there, and it just convolutes the winger logjam even more. I mean, the winger situation, if you had an hour, I don't know that I could break down how convoluted that whole mess has become, because they got, let's see. Well, I'll just break it down. They got Trevor Zegras at wing now. They have Travis Konechny, who's been signed till the end of time. And they have Owen Tippett, who they think any day now will ascend into the realm of the superstars. They are convinced. Tyson Forster, any day now, will become not just a Selke guy, but a regular Bergeron who's taking the Selke every year. They are just in love, infatuated with those two players, so they're not going anywhere. And then you got Porter Martone coming, who is looking phenomenal in college, just doing great things for MSU, and obviously was a very high pick, has been doing great things as a prospect for a very long time, and I would imagine step seamlessly into the NHL. And he's probably a top 6 player right off the bat. So you have Martone, next year this is, Martone, Michkov, Tippett, Konechny, and then you have some prospects after that that are interesting to Philly fans, but we don't have to get into. Let's just say there's 3 of those. And then you add in Trevor Zegras. That is a lot more awkward than if you added him to center and he was the lone center who has any puck skill, any at all. You probably noticed it watching the game. How many centers on Philadelphia can handle a puck? just picture the Hurricane center situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now take Sebastian Aho out of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And, it's like I kind of went through something similar with, I mean, granted, I ended up being totally wrong about this. I wanted Nature's tried at center so badly. I
Same.
was begging Rod, try Nature's. Like, I wouldn't do it while he was playing bad. But when he went on that hot streak to start last season before he got traded, I was like, okay, let's try and catch lightning in a bottle. We did it once with Aho. Let's try it again with Nature's. I was like, that's all I want. And, one of the immediate pushbacks I got was, well, he's not good at faceoffs. I'm like, well, he normally takes second faceoffs anyway when the first guy's waved out. So he's trying to not get a delay a game faceoff violation penalty. So he's not going to be super aggressive when he goes up to take faceoffs. So that was one thing. And everyone's like, well, he's not good enough defensively. And I'm like, well, one of this team's problems, I think, is, and this is not literal, but you'll understand what I mean. Not every forward on the team has to get Selke votes. You need some guys who, like you say, have skill with the puck, can, manage it in risky situations. Now, did Nate just mess up a lot of the times with it going the 1-on-4? Absolutely. Did he get a little bit better at it because he started entering the zone in an angle instead of cutting directly 90 degrees to the middle of the ice and making himself an easy target? He got a little bit better at that. And when he was doing really well, I was like, all right, now's a good time to try it. Now, what ultimately proved me wrong, he went to Colorado and that experiment lasted a period. Like, I just think that ship has sailed for him because I was like, we should have tried him at center. Carolina should have tried him at center. And then he goes there and they're like, oh, he's going to play center tonight. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, I'm about to make people eat some humble pie. And I watched that game and it was over in a period. And I was like, okay, I was wrong. Yeah. I will fully admit that because I thought, now Zegras, on the other hand, I think that as far as puck management skill and everything like you're talking about, he's got more of that ability to handle it in those high risk situations and everything like that. His entries are a lot more controlled than Nature's. Nature's, like, for as skilled as he is, he's still a bull in a china shop. He just doesn't hit anybody. So whereas Zegras, I feel like he's got that extra little bit of hockey IQ to slow the play down when he has possession of the puck. And if he's at center, he'll have possession in those types of situations a little bit more often. So, like, I absolutely agree with your rationale. Like, if you try him there, like, it can't hurt you guys to try it.
Especially because in the limited sample of when you do it, it almost invariably goes well. And I mean, obviously, okay, it's sheltered situations. Like, one of their favorite moves is whenever a penalty kill's done, they're going to throw Michkov and Zegras out there on a line because the top forwards for the other team were just on a power play. So how much damage is the third or fourth line going to do? The answer is absolutely none because those two are crushing whoever they put in front of them. It's brutal. Like, every shift they put them out there, it's like 3 scoring chances happen. And at a certain point, I would look at that as a reasonable head coach and go, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something here on a full-time basis. Let me give this a couple of games and see how this goes. Now, unfortunately, the coach that we employ, who I lambast with biblical terms, this is actually the story of what he did. He put Michkov and Zegras together in the preseason, and they look good. But while they were looking good, they turned the puck over several times. Now, they certainly created more than they gave up, statistically and just by the eye test. But in the midst of creating all that, they turned the puck over a lot. And during the preseason. And the coach was like, nope, never again. Zegras is going to wing. Michkov's going to China.
Yeah, because Michkov, like, the weird thing about it to me, I don't remember if it was in Saturday or Sunday. Which game was it that Michkov didn't play in overtime? Was it Sunday?
I think it was Sunday, yeah.
Because I was watching it at work and the store was kind of dead. I work at a hockey store right now, and when I'm not going to school. And I was watching that, and I was waiting on Michkov to come over the boards, and he never did. And that was kind of surprising to me. I'm like, with that much open ice and a guy who can generate the entries that he can entry with all that, or that he can with all that extra time and space, as good of a playmaker as he is, like, I'm wondering, why is he not out there?
Rick Tocchet sees an entirely different player than we both do, is the short story. Rick Tocchet thinks he's fat, like, unironically, straight up thinks the kid is fat.
No, he's not.
He's not.
If that's fat, then I want to be fat like him. Like,
dude's built like Mike Tyson. Like,
yeah, he is. He's just stocky.
My
the same thing with
criticism,
Stankoven. Stankoven's built like a damn fire hydrant. It's like, yeah, you can hit him because he's only 5'7", but like it's gonna hurt you too.
yes, he's so strong. Michkov is. I forget which game it was, and it was very easy to miss. It was kind of a nothing play, but there's a battle in the corner, and it is one of the bigger Hurricanes on the team. Michkov straight up throws him.
Probably
Like,
one of the defensemen then, or Svechnikov.
literally just like, and it's like dude goes flying.
Wow,
completely hits the ice, and nothing came of it. So, but he just does that sort of thing all the time. The one that sticks out in my head is he's going into a corner with Colton Parayko. Massive 6'7", 270, whatever he is. He's probably like 250, but whatever.
He's the biggest guy in the league now. I think that now that Charo's retired, and I don't personally count Matt Rempe as an NHL player. I've seen guys in the SPHL who skate better than Matt Rempe, and I'm not even saying that to be hyperbolic. I have legitimately seen better skaters in single A minor league hockey.
Yeah, he is not an NHL player. So Colton Parayko and Matvei Michkov are going into the corner, and Michkov gets the first touch. He puts a reverse hit on Parayko that hits Parayko hard enough. He's so surprised he legitimately hits the ice.
Damn.
He put Colton Parayko on his ass, and the Blues announcers were confused. They're like,
did that really just happen?
Did Parayko toe pick? And then they had to like, did Michkov just? And yeah, he did, but he is very, very strong. And you could, I think, criticize. I think he's over the years since his draft year put on so much weight, just good weight, but still weight, that he is slowing himself down a little bit. He's definitely not as fast as he could be. The big problem though is I don't think it affects his entry game at all. I think he's just so good at understanding angles and so skilled with the puck that he will find an unorthodox way to attack the zone and attack the defender. He's kind of like, to throw a basketball comp out there, he almost attacks like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander attacks, where it's like, it's never just like Anthony Edwards style, first step, blow by you in a straight line and make you look silly. Gilgeous-Alexander will attack from all these weird angles and come at you in a million different directions. It's very much that.
Yeah, and no, that makes perfect sense. It's like you have those guys that can like just blow by you in one step like you're talking about. But then you have someone like Michkov who it's like he calculates what he's doing. It's like, okay, he's got the puck. He's at the blue line. Do I want to go this way? Do I want to go this way? You know, it's like he like they're very controlled how he does. It's like he enters the zone on his terms, not yours.
Mm-hmm. And I think it infuriates Tocchet. I really do. I think he just believes that hockey is a very straight ahead, direct sport, and this extra stuff is just all fluff that is not real hockey. I'll say it like that.
Maybe when he played, but you know that's one of the things that like one of my few criticisms of Brendan Moore that's gotten me sent death threats, like quite literally. I'm not even kidding about that. Like that's legitimately happened. It's like. I'm like, it's 2026, not 1996. Two-line pass is gone. It's like the game has opened up a ton. You have to have those plays like that. Those guys made it playing that way for a reason. Their draft stock was built around playing that way for a reason. Like those things are necessary now. If you look at the average talent of an NHL player at all, like pick anyone you want, whether it's your 13th forward or your top line center. The talent gap or the average talent of a player is so high now. If you drop Gretzky, Messier, guys like that in now, yeah, they'd still be Hall of Famers, but they wouldn't be the standouts that they are now. And if you're talking specifically about defensemen, you know, once upon a time, you could have a defenseman that didn't skate that well, but he was just big and he had a lot of reach and he could hit people and he could make it. If you can't skate, you can't play defense now. So when you have guys like Michkov who can make those entries when every defenseman in the league is at least a above average skater, however he does it is irrelevant. It's just that he can accomplish it.
Exactly. And I understand I posted this, it was during one of the two Hurricanes games. I think it was the second, but Couturier had this really funny play where he tried to cosplay Michkov, where he has the puck in the neutral zone and he goes 90-degree angle Nate style. Nate just loves to do this too, and it didn't go well for him either.
No.
90-degree angle through the neutral zone. Now Michkov, God bless him, will find a way to string out the defense and then button hook at some perfect time and throw a crazy saucer pass to a guy on the other end of the ice, and it's an entry. Yeah, he's like one of 4 people in the league who can do that. If you're not one of the 4 people in the league, you're going to do what Sean Couturier did, which is you're going to turn it over brutally and give up like a 2-1-0.
Yeah, there's not many guys who can do that. That's why it's like that was one of the things I've always been worried about with Rod, is that guys like Natchez, and to a much lesser degree now Svechnikov, because Svechnikov has that physical side to his game, and he's big, he knows how to protect the puck with his body and everything, but I always felt like those guys, to at least a little bit of a degree, were hamstrung by the way that they were asked to play in the system. And I feel like a lot of that is happening to Matvei Michkov in Philadelphia, that the way that he is wired to play and the way he's being asked to play are things that are never really going to mix.
Exactly.
And the thing about it, he's such a talented player. Like, it's just, I think that if he's allowed to play his game, which eventually will come, because I think that Tocchet will go before Michkov does. I really do. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I think that you'll see a side of his game that hasn't really got to showcase itself at the NHL level yet.
It's almost going to be, I genuinely believe this, it could be at some point, something breaks, the fever breaks, and Michkov is just allowed to play his game, and he will almost instantly become one of the best wingers in the NHL. Like, he is just that good right now. And you look at his box score numbers, that sounds crazy. And I'm not saying he'd be Kucherov right now. I'm saying you could probably name 10 wingers ahead of him in the NHL right now. And that number is going to descend to like anywhere between 0 to 2 by the time he hits his prime. But it's completely right. I would usually be very concerned with this sort of thing, where it's like making a player play a game that is just not his and is never going to mix. I would usually think, oh man, this is how you kill a player's development. Fortunately, with Michkov, I genuinely believe he's just such an anomalous talent that as soon as you stop doing this, he's just going to be himself. And that's almost never true of players, but I think it's going to be true in this kid's case. I think you even saw like little glimpses of it in the first game of Carolina in particular, where the analytics were hilarious. I posted about them a few times. It was like the Hurricanes, or the Flyers, could not handle the Hurricanes at all, and the expected goal count at 5-on-5 was like 1 to 0.92 to 0.16.
You said the second game?
The first game.
Oh, the first game. Here, let me bring it back up.
Without Michkov's minutes. Yeah, there we go. 1.94 to 1.55 total. The way that breaks down is basically when Matvei Michkov was not on the ice for Philadelphia, the expected goal count was something like 0.94 to 0.16 Carolina. When Michkov was on the ice, it was the exact opposite. And the reason for that is because a lot of that stuff we were just talking about was when Michkov gets a puck and somebody's in his face, because it's the Carolina Hurricanes and somebody's always in your face, everybody panics. Almost everybody panics. Michkov will just string him out, take him laterally, buy himself some time. Up, there's a pass, free entry, free exit, free whatever, free scoring chance. And the fact that you can do that playing, I think he produced legitimately one expected goal at 5-on-5 on ice in his minutes in like 12 minutes at 5-on-5. I don't even want to do that per 60 calculation. The fact that you can do that regularly is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, because the league average is what, 0.3 or something like that. That's incredibly high for one player.
Yeah, like if you're at 3 in over a season, you're doing really, really, really well at 5-on-5. Like, not many people can do that. Actually, funny stat, and I posted about this on X to you. It was a conversation, I think, about Svechnikov. I mentioned it. Rick Tocchet has never produced a player to produce over, or to generate over 3 expected goals per hour at 5-on-5 It's never happened. Quinn Hughes peaked out at like 2.97. Matvei Michkov, depending on which model you use, is doing it.
Oh, wow. That's pretty insane.
In evolving hockey, he is at 3.01. He's clinging to history.
That is amazing. Speaking of,
yeah, you know, he's a little over half a point per game. And, you know, with a player like him, if he's not getting points, people are pissed. So I get that side of it. And, you know, it's very easy to just go with the narrative that like his rookie season was too good. He got fat, and because it's like this league's too easy. I'm just gonna go to Dubai and party all summer. I'm gonna come back, and now he's regressed, and he's regressed because he got fat, and he can't get any minutes because that, and just blame it all on him. That's very easy.
Speaking of, we have a good comment here whenever you're ready to answer it.
Derek, how do you think Michkov's ceiling compares to Bedard, Celebrini, Smith, etc.? There are, so of those two, there are two players who legitimately routinely make me say, holy shit, when it comes to what they can do with the puck.
Bedard and Celebrini.
Celebrini a little bit. What I'll say about Celebrini is he doesn't make me say that when he has the puck specifically all the time, but like he's like supreme version of Sebastian Aho. Like, just take Sebastian Aho and remove all the limiters from him. Like, he's
a good comparison
to be quite possibly the best two-way forward in the history of the league. He's got that kind of upside, okay? So when I say that, like, their puck skills in particular, when I watch that aspect of the game from all these players, there are two players where it's like they possess a level of skill that's just on a different level, frankly, from the league. For the most part, that to me is Bedard and Michkov. So when we're talking about who's going to be the best offensive players, I do think those two are going to be battling for a very long time. Now, Celebrini, I think, will probably be the best overall player of the three just because his two-way potential is ridiculous. He's like a 9 where Bedard and Michkov are a 10 offensively. He's almost there, but he's also one of the best checkers in the league. And some of that, I think David St. Louis did great analysis on this, where it was like some of that is because he kind of creates his own chaos, where it's like he's winning all these puck battles because he's creating the puck battles by turning the puck over. There's definitely a big part of that. But as he works that out, I do think you're going to see like what happens if Sebastian Aho is even more dynamic, has an even better shot, and even more surgical playmaker. He's like all the same two-way prowess, plus probably puts up in the current scoring environment like 100 points a year. His PDO right now is absolutely insane. So I don't know. I think he probably gets like 85, 90 this year. And then maybe he does not quite hit that level again in year 3 because the PDO will catch up to you eventually. But yeah, Celebrini, I think, will be the best overall player in the league in his prime. Bedard and Michkov will reach levels of offensive prowess that are just at a different level from the league, kind of like two Kucherovs practically, or Kaprizov. Hopefully, Michkov and Kaprizov remind me a lot of each other. I would say Michkov doesn't have quite the overpowering release of Kaprizov. He's definitely a bit more of a surgical shooter and more net front driven, as in he's going to do most of his scoring from right in the slot, whereas Kaprizov can just bang some one-timers out from the perimeter very easily. So he's kind of like Kaprizov with a bit more of a net front focus, and his brain operates more like Kucherov. Whereas Bedard is actually probably my favorite player in the league to watch this year. Unfortunately, he got hurt because I cannot have nice things.
That was a freaky way that went down too.
But Will Smith, I have not mentioned Will Smith as much. I do not know that he compares to the other 3 players that we're talking about, but he's really, really, really good. I think his play has been super underrated for San Jose this year because of what Celebrini's been doing, but almost every Will Smith game I watch, he's making some crazy pass. I was not the biggest fan of his when he was a prospect because I just thought he was trying to do too much all the time. It was like Marty Natchez style in the NHL, except he was doing it in freaking juniors. I was like, oh my God. So I was not as big a fan of his game when he was going through as a prospect, but I've loved what he's done playmaking off the wall and playmaking in the offensive zone. Like his pure vision reminds me of Backstrom at times. So the Sharks are just going to be a brutally effective team over there in the West. And the fact that he's probably their second best player is just stupid. Like, how did they have Celebrini and Smith?
No, if they manage their assets correctly, San Jose is going to be absolutely like.
I will also throw Leo Carlsson in there. I do.
Oh yeah, good one.
Yeah, Leo Carlsson is almost like Barkov with ambition. Mm-hmm. Like Leo Carlsson, he's not quite Barkov in the sense that I don't think he will ever even want to manage the puck quite like Barkov. But he's like Barkov with the mindset of freaking McKinnon. Like that dude attacks people one-on-one, straight line through the neutral zone as much as anybody in the league right now, and nobody can handle him. He's super fun to watch. He's going to be in that best player in the league conversation, like I think Celebrini, Bedard, and Michkov will eventually be. So that's my whole prospects field, my young player spiel.
All righty. So we will get on to the second game here, the one that took place on Sunday. Final score of 3-2. This one again ended in a shootout. 3.5 to 3.72 for the expected goals in all situations. Both teams had 1 5-on-5 goal. Expected goals 5-on-5, 2.25 to 1.62, favoring Carolina. Penalty minutes were 10 for Carolina, 14 for the Flyers. Power play 1 for 6 for Carolina, 0 for 4 for Philadelphia. That says 9 shorthanded goals apiece. Those are supposed to be zeros. Ignore that. If that ever happens in an NHL game, something is horribly wrong. Shot attempts are 80 to 49, shot blocks 10 to 18, and faceoff percentage 51.6 to 48.4. The summary of the scoring in this one in the first period: William Carrier scored at 5:44, assisted by Jordan Martinook. In the second period, Trevor Zegras. I don't know why it says that. Third, Taylor Hall from I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, we'll just ignore that there. I had someone else put it together for me, and I think that they used AI because I had some stuff I had to take care of today.
Nobody got assists.
Yeah, nobody had assists. Yeah, that would be the most Carolina and Philadelphia game ever. Nobody had assists. But yeah, so I didn't get to
require plays to be made with the puck,
which just not a thing. But so I actually didn't get to sit down and watch that game because I was at work. I only caught glances of it here and there. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that one, though.
Yeah, the second game I think was, I don't remember it as well. I forget, I was watching it, but I feel like I lost interest at a certain point, and then I was just like rolling my eyes into the back of my head for most of the game. But I mostly remember, like, I remember Charlie O'Connor, who does good work covering the team, was like, if you look at the possession entries and the non-possession entries, because he tracks all that stuff, and then also if you look at the expected goals models, you'll see that actually this was a really close game at 5-on-5. And what I'd say is, yeah, it was a close game at 5-on-5 because Carolina had the puck a lot, but didn't always do a whole lot with it.
That's normal.
But yeah. But there was never any doubt as in like who was the better team at that point and who was probably eventually going to win that game. It just seemed like Carolina just lacked the ability to step on the throat of a lesser team in that particular affair. Whereas the first period of the first game, they legitimately looked god-awful. I don't think they ever looked god-awful in this second game. I also just don't think they ever put a team away that they should have put away. And some of that, like, that was Philly going for that. Like, they were... Actually, I had a friend I think it was that game, and he was talking about something interesting that he never thought he would see the Hurricanes doing. Or maybe this was the first game. The two were bleeding together. Why do we do same team back-to-backs? Oh, my God.
I don't know. It's like if I'd gotten to sit down and watch them both, like what little bit I saw of the second game, it looked like it very much mirrored the one on
Yeah.
Saturday, like just what I
So it's
saw of it, because I
probably,
was running around sharpening skates and doing all kinds of other stuff. So I didn't really watch it. I had it on the TV there, but I
Mhm.
mean, and then I flipped back over to the Panthers game, like the football ones, and I saw what was happening with that. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to put the hockey game back on this side. I don't want to know what's going on with this.
Yeah. Carolina was sending the weak side winger to practically cherry pick a lot, apparently, and TV
Really?
did not cover it. Yeah, apparently TV wasn't going to cover it really well, and it usually doesn't.
Yeah.
But they were, as far as he was describing to me, like every single defensive zone rep, it was like that weak side winger is gone. And they hit it a couple of times, but didn't do a whole lot with it. That I think that also put a little bit of fear into Philly, as in like, oh no, even while we're playing offense, we're thinking about playing defense because they have that weak side winger flying the zone. And I think that was probably strategic on Rod's part in both games, where it was like, Philly's not going to create a whole lot of offense, even if you invite them to.
Mhm.
But if you really intimidate them, as in like the offense that you create could go wrong and create a breakaway against, the way they're playing right now, that's almost unacceptable. So it created a lot of very non-threatening possessions from Philly because they were afraid to really go for it when they weren't trailing. Like, basically, Rod Brindamore psychologically destroyed the Flyers by doing something Rod Brindamore would never otherwise do. It was pretty funny.
You know, I hope I see. I hope I see that some in the playoffs too, because you know that was one thing last year when Taylor Hall scored on that breakaway goal in Game 4 against Washington in the second round. You know, you remember that one really long, one of my most infamous posts about Brindamore, the one
Mhm.
that I caught so much heat for, because I remember you were one of the first people that shared it and complimented it. And I had
Mhm.
so many people in there that read that, and their response was, "Why do you want Rod fired?" I'm like, that's not what I said at all. Those words have never come out of my mouth and like, or been typed, but that was the response they got. I'm like, no, I'm just saying you have a team that is so, you know, got all this speed that they use that can fly the zone so much faster and extend and make all that time and space in the neutral zone just by moving their feet. Why don't you have a guy cheat a little bit offensively?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and what you're talking about is what, and what I was also referencing with the Taylor Hall breakaway goal. I'm like, this type of stuff should happen a lot more with the way that this team plays. And like you're saying, it would psychologically break the other team because they're like, okay, we're not used to Carolina doing this. What can we do about it? And we have to figure it out very, very quick.
Especially these defensive teams who are like really going to get afraid of what could happen coming back at them. Like, yeah, you know, if you did it to Kucherov, he's going to be like, oh boy, one less defender, time to feast.
Yeah.
But if you do that to almost anyone else in the league, it's going to be like, oh shit, this could be a real problem.
Right.
And I think maybe they do it more often now. And it's just he noticed that particular in that particular game because it is very much easier to notice that sort of tactical thing in game, like when you're
Yeah.
at the
You're
stadium.
not limited by the camera frame. Whereas it's like, I'm
Exactly.
used to, like, when I'm watching the broadcast, I'm used to almost always seeing all 5 of the Canes players in the frame.
Yes. Whereas I did notice, to his point, there were a lot more occasions where it was like, where is the fifth hurricane? What are they
Yeah.
doing? Are they doing their best beach golf impression?
Yeah,
Because
like
Elon's doing that
I want to
shit.
see stuff like that a little bit more. I'm not talking about like somebody going and playing, you know, 11:30 p.m. beer league game cherry picking where they're all the way at the offensive blue line just standing there not even moving their feet. But it's just like fly the zone a third of a second earlier than what you were before. Get one step further out. Like that
Don't
can
be
make a
afraid
huge
to
difference.
anticipate. Yeah, exactly. Do not be afraid to anticipate. That's always been my thing. Like, obviously, you know, engage in the defensive battle as long as there is a defensive battle to be engaged in. But if you're reading, we're going to recover this puck, go.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't. Maybe it'll bounce off somebody's skate and to the other player. That's going to happen. But just as often, you're going to be correct in your read. And if you're not, then maybe stop making those reads because you're not very good at them. But assuming you're decent at them, you're going to be correct more often than not, and you're going to get a lot of offensive opportunities. And these are the offensive opportunities the Hurricanes need. Like, yes, they're going to get their forecheck chances, and I think the offensive zone systems are not quite as limiting as they have been over the years. I do not see them immediately defaulting to the most basic point shot imaginable and just accumulating 77 of those every single game. I do think they try to work for a little bit more. Ghost has really contributed to that. I think.
Very much so. It's like that's made a huge difference because of the stuff that he can do, like, because he's really good at walking the blue line and everything like that. He's got the vision to go with it and everything. And it's just like, to your point about like reading the breakouts and everything like that when you're the high forward or something like that. If someone's coming out from behind the net after they, win a board battle or whatever, and they turn the puck over anywhere below the circle, you can't get back to help them in time any damn way.
Exactly.
That's it.
I remember I was having some kind of weird argument with like a Montreal fan about,
a Montreal fan with a weird take. Doesn't say it ain't so.
Oh, right. I know. And he was talking about Michkov lying in the zone on one of his breakaway goals. And it was like, that was a huge risk that you should never take as a player because, like, and what he'd say is, well, if it didn't happen that way, then it would have happened this other way where he'd given up a chance. And I'm sitting here like, the chance would have happened at the freaking net front. What do you think? The weak side winger is going to be covering the net front? No.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it at that point. The play's already way out of your range.
Or he'd get super specific, like, what if the defenseman pinched and came in and got a rebound opportunity off of the original chance? It's like, okay, yes, potentially. Three layers of hypotheticals later.
That's the Charlie Day meme where he's doing the thing where he's putting all the stuff together on the... Oh, okay, come on. That's a bit much.
Okay, yes. Eventually, you can create a hypothetical scenario where the read was wrong. But unfortunately, we live in the real world where the read was correct.
Yes. And the situation he's describing is like, that took a lot of computing power to come up with that. Like...
First of all, that defenseman, like, unless it's freaking Cale Makar there, I don't think he's even
they're not going to do it.
Thinking of that, yeah.
No, like there's very few defensemen who would pinch in that situation anyway and do it successfully at that.
If anything, what's probably going to happen is he's going to prevent that from ever happening because that defenseman's going to be like, is that number 39 going through the neutral zone?
I need to pick him up.
Stop that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and it's like, especially when you're talking about defensemen who skate really well and everything, they can still kind of make that read and keep their eye on that play and be within 2 stick lengths of the guy that's trying to break out early. Like they can do both. These guys are that good at hockey.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Best players in the world. Like, especially as you get to the top of the lineup of NHL teams. Like, yeah.
Alrighty, we will go through the comments here. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Show them together. Rod, keep doing that. Weak side winger, fly that zone, baby.
Yeah, that's when I saw that happening in the playoffs a little bit more. I'm like, that's the missing piece of the formula as far as the system goes. I always thought it's like you create all this turnover, you suppress all these shots because one thing leads to another. It's like when you suppress shots and you create turnovers, and you keep teams on the perimeter. That's that much easier for you to get out of your own zone. That's that much faster you can do it. And that's that many or more opportunities you can make where you're going to the other end with numbers. And, one thing that I've noticed that Carolina's not dumping the puck in as much as they were before. Not even close. That's down to a fraction of what it was. So like they're in the right direction. I think that the last thing is to acquire another center. And then I'll feel a lot better about their chances. It's just like there's 4 teams out west that could definitely beat Carolina in the Stanley Cup Finals right now, though. I'm convinced of that. That's the only problem. It's like Vegas, Dallas, Colorado. I'm afraid of all 3 of them.
Yeah, there's 3 teams in the West, I think.
Or I'll say 3. I mean, I in a 7-game series, keeping in mind that how big of a factor in isolation McDavid or Draisaitl could be. In a 7-game series against Edmonton, I'm taking Carolina. I think they would probably lose the first 2, but once you gas McDavid and Draisaitl and use them up, that team doesn't have anything else. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Past that, it's like if you shut them down, you win. But that's a hell of an if because of who they are.
Honestly, I think the big thing, I think Evan Bouchard basically decides the entire series in Carolina because basically no other forward, no other Edmonton defenseman is going to be able to move the puck against that forecheck. It's not going to happen.
No,
And
and
it'll
the only guy
be,
who can shut it down coming the other way is probably Ekholm.
yeah, exactly. So if Bouchard can move the puck enough times and make enough like Tom Brady passes with the puck to create that many goals, like, yeah, Edmonton could win that series, but it's a lot to put on a single player.
Yeah,
Like, he's one of my favorite defensemen in the league to watch, Bouchard, purely because of how good a passer he is. But
his
I think
shot is
that's
amazing too.
probably that too. He just awesome player, but that I think is overtaxing him.
Yeah, and then we've seen like what happens when defensemen get overtaxed, and even though he's completely different, Slavin. But I think that's one of the reasons Carolina was looking at offer sheeting Bouchard, because they're like, put him with Slavin and just let him do his thing, because you put someone with Slavin that can basically play however the hell they want.
That's terrible. Oh my god.
What?
I would pay Bouchard $50 million to watch Slavin Bouchard minutes.
Oh yeah, just like it's kind of like. Evan Bouchard, what do? You do whatever you want. Jacob Slavin's over here. You're fine. However you want to move the puck, whatever lane you want to take, you want to go for those long stretch passes, you want to walk it up yourself, you go right ahead. That's one of the reasons I loved the D'Angelo and Slavin pair so much. Those two guys could not have played any differently, but could not have complemented each other any better. I absolutely love that pair. And they're like, well, why didn't Tony work out playing with, say, Nick Seeler? I'm like, Nick Seeler's a shot blocking machine. Like, he's a good defenseman, but I'm not going to pretend that he's nearly as dynamic as Slavin. Tony and Slavin were yin and yang. Nick Seeler, like, he's just like, you lock down your side of the ice, you prevent chances, you're essentially another goalie without pads because of how good you are at getting in the way. But like, that's a very underrated skill in this day and age, because Seeler can block shots a lot of times on his feet, get possession of the puck, make one of those little short 3 or 4 foot passes, and next thing you know, bam, Flyers are out. And it's just people like undersell how good he is at that.
Oh yeah, he's very, very good at that. And it was one. His results have gone down a little bit in these Tocchet years. I think part of it is just because the system is a lot less reliant on blocking shots than it was with Torts, where Torts wanted any shot blocked possibly, whereas Tocchet is much more of a box out kind of guy and let the goalies see it. And that is partly why the goalies' numbers are looking better, is because the goalies are seeing a lot more pucks and way fewer pucks are going off of Flyers and into the net. But the downside of it is it's actually a lot harder to counterattack now, because the Seeler and Drysdale was a very good pair for counterattacking, because it would have been like Seeler blocks a shot and then makes a little pass to Drysdale, and then Drysdale
moves it up the ice.
Yeah, and very, very well at that. Whereas now Drysdale, in order to move it up the ice, basically has to cosplay Quinn Hughes, and that's a bit much to ask of anybody. Yes. Even with somebody with Drysdale skating ability, because he might have Quinn Hughes' feet, but he doesn't have Quinn Hughes' hands.
I don't think anybody has Quinn Hughes' hands. The only guy whose hands is better than him as far as defensemen go is Kel McCarr. That is it. It's like now, granted, there's been a lot of propaganda lately saying that Quinn Hughes is the second best defenseman in the world. And now, even if you're looking at it in terms of guys who produce or, complete defensemen on top of that, I'd say he's third. I still think Miro Heiskanen is better than him if you're looking at a player all around.
One of my boys still has the position that Miro Heiskanen is the best defender in the NHL, and his point is basically that, where it's like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar are the best in the world at their roles, and their roles does not encompass the entirety of hockey, whereas Miro Heiskanen is a straight-up throwback to like the old version of number one defenseman, where it's like his role is everything. He's Lidstrom. Yes, he is Lidstrom. He's doing straight up everything for Dallas. He is a one-man army as far as he is doing all the defensive work on whatever pair he's on. He's doing all the transition work on whatever pair he's on. And he's added the offensive elements to his game, where now he's doing all the offensive work. He is probably, that's your top three for sure. I don't know if anybody really comes meaningfully close. I guess
No.
Darlene, if you get him out of Buffalo prison, I think maybe.
I'm interested to see how Darlene would play if he's not in a dumpster fire. I mean, to summarize how things are in Buffalo, I remember last year when it was either last year or a year before last, the first time that Bowen Byram was on the power play with them, and he's like pointing to guys, telling them where to go while he's got possession of the puck because they had no idea where they were supposed to be. Like that poor guy, he's sitting there, he's got one hand on the stick and he's got the puck at one point. He passes it off to somebody and he's going like this and like this. It's like he's literally he's like, if he'd had a controller, I think he would have been fine because he could have, hit the little button to change players and get them to go where they wanted to.
He was doing pre-snap routines in Madden.
I was like,
everybody's routes.
I remember watching that. I'm like, this power play cannot be that bad to where Bowen Byram is having to give physical directions to these guys to figure out where they're supposed to go. It was that bad. I need to find the video of that. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like he legitimately was trying to direct them with hand signals on the ice. It looked like he was like in a firefight. It was,
and people wonder why Byram's analytics look bad. You're like, yeah, the minute he got done with his repeated concussions in Colorado,
he goes back and he gets a figurative concussion on their power play because I'm pretty sure Go ahead.
He went from collecting CTE in Colorado to Buffalo, where everyone else is already collecting CTE.
I just couldn't believe that when I saw it. I'm like, these guys have no semblance of where they're supposed to go, and Bowen Byram was trying to like help them figure it out. I was just like, I couldn't believe what I saw. Yeah, I couldn't figure that out.
Like, Torts is going to Buffalo. That might be Torts's ideal destination.
It might be. He can't make them worse.
Those guys need to learn how to play hockey.
The basic fundamentals of the game almost all over again. And, it's like Torts, for whatever faults he does have, if you need someone to come in there and actually change culture, he's good for that. He's very good for that.
I miss the terrorist. That's mostly because I've been dealing with the Antichrist. I will legitimately say, like, Torts has his faults, but he also has his strengths. And his strengths are somewhat misunderstood. As in, yes, he very much believes in defending like every single other coach ever, but he does have some interesting ideas as far as believing that the game should be played at a very high pace and not like skate fast and put your head down kind of thing. He's very much appreciative of like the Matvei Michkos of the world, where he watched that dude. I could not have described his feelings better than he described his feelings. I think it was like a TNT broadcast. It was just after he healthy scratched Matvei twice because he's a terrorist. And he was talking about it. He's like, look, away from the puck, we have some things that we need to work on with him, no question. But like once he has the puck, he is completely special. I have no comps for him. He's not the fastest guy in the world. This is quoting him, but like he just finds a way in these compressed areas that you don't see on the broadcast very often, but he will make that pass, that little 10-foot pass that nobody else is making. And I on the bench will be going like, oh shit, Matvei, please, please, please. And then I'll make that play and be like, yeah, it's great play. That is kind of Torts in a nutshell, where yes, he is very much punitive. He is one of the most punitive coaches in the league. But he's honest, and he's more appreciative of the skill level of today's athletes than he gets credit for. You see it a little bit more when he's broadcasting because he's not coaching, and he's just like, wow, these guys are so good. Man, this is crazy. Is this what we're doing in the NHL nowadays? Like, this is the Torch broadcast experience. I was like, dude, what happened? You were like an ISIS militant just last year.
No, that makes sense though, because I remember when he came on when ESPN hired him the first time, and I was kind of like, I'm wondering what his analysis of the game is going to be like, and I was very much expecting the get off my lawn stuff from him, even though I've always liked him. But he was nothing like that. Like you were saying, it's like he had all this like admiration for like how good players are now versus like, when he coached the Tampa Bay Cup team. he's acknowledged that evolution of the game and that it was inevitable anyway. Especially since he was the last guy to win a Stanley Cup before the lockout, or the last coach to win a Stanley Cup before the lockout. But I was really expecting him to be, Roenick was a lot like that. He was a little bit, get off my lawn with it. But it's like, and sometimes that was a good thing because, there'd be times where, penalties would get called over perfectly clean hits and Roenick would be the first guy to say, okay, come on, let them play. It's like, that's not that big of a deal. It happens. But then it's like things that are common practices now, like, okay, net is empty, go for the open net, even if you're on the wrong side of the red line. And Roenick would lose his mind about that. Torts sees that and he's like, that's how it is now. It's like, but yeah, like him being a broadcaster definitely gave a lot of insight into how he actually is. And, it's like if he was a little bit younger, like if he was born 10 years later and could communicate better with the younger guys, because, that's essentially a language barrier trying to talk to somebody who was born 20 years after you were or more.
Yeah.
That can be a bit of a thing. It's like, I'm surprised, or not surprised, but it's good that Brind'Amour is as good as he is with the youth. But I think part of that helps that he's not that recently removed from playing in the grand scheme of things. He didn't retire that long ago from playing. So, but yeah, it's like, I definitely noticed that on the broadcast, like you're talking about. I'm like, this is going very Torts, I feel like, has a better modern touch with the game than some of the guys who haven't played relatively recently. I'd rather listen to Torts talk about it than PK Subban, because I feel like he's incredibly out of touch. And I liked him when he played. I know, unpopular opinion, because a lot of people hated him. I liked him when he played.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a good player, and he was a fun player to watch, but I don't know what the hell his views of the game are. Man.
Like in the playoffs last year, he was like, oh, yep, New Jersey's going to win the series. I'm like, bro, okay, hold on. I'm not a huge 24-25 Carolina Hurricanes believer by any means, but come on.
Wasn't
just 2 years ago,
Jersey without Jack Hughes too?
Jersey without Jack Hughes. And keep in mind, 2 years before that, no Svechnikov, no Kasha, no Pacioretty. Carolina knocked him out in 5 games. And the one game that they lost, they still scored 2 shorthanded goals, and Jordan Martinook scored on a penalty shot. And that's the game that the Devils won.
The Devils are going to have to just prove it to me eventually. Like, everybody wants to crown the Devils as they have emerged, and they do it every year. It's like, this is the year the Devils will emerge. I'm kind of done with that. The Devils are going to have to prove to me that they can do it. Jack Hughes is going to have to survive through the winter. Like,
yeah, he has a bit of a hard time with that.
He's going to become my new Mr. October theme, because I turned Travis Konechny into Mr. Right Way, because that's become a whole meme. So now Mr. October is open and Jack Hughes is qualified. That man, every single October is Wayne Gretzky. But by the time he gets to December, he's dead.
Yeah, it's like by Thanksgiving, he's like something. It's like if you would have told me that he would have cut himself with a wine glass, I would have never believed that. Like, it was freaky enough. Like, so Victor Rask, that used to play for the Hurricanes, the one that got traded for Nino Niederreiter, right before the season started, he was cutting sweet potatoes and he accidentally sliced his hand open and he had to have surgery. And, that was part of the story arc that created Sebastian Aho first line center, which I was not a believer in that when that first happened. I was like, it took me a couple of years to buy in on Aho. It really did, especially when they're like, oh, we're going to make him a center. I'm like, you're going to do what? I was like, all right, if anybody can do it, it's Brind'Amour. So let's see what happens. And it worked out pretty well. But like, here's where I have a relatively unpopular opinion. And about the only Devils fan that really agrees with me is my buddy JJ, Devils Joint, as you know him. Jack Hughes is the 3rd best forward on that team, in my opinion. I will take Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt over him any day of the week.
Honestly, I am sympathetic to that take, and I would have totally agreed with it before. This is the one thing that holds me back. Every time Jack Hughes dies, so do the Devils.
That is true.
And, I look at players like Jack Hughes, where it's like, as much as I do love the speed and the skill, I always go like, okay, in every physical confrontation, that man's dead. It just brings absolutely nothing to the game physically. And I don't think you have to bring a ton to the game physically, but I just don't think he clears a bar that even most undersized forwards clear. Like Mitch Marner, for example, I do not fear for his life every time he goes into a corner.
Yeah.
Whereas Jack Hughes, he's just so light on his feet, both positively and negatively, that I legitimately fear for his life every time he goes into a corner. So I've been generally of that opinion where it's like, yeah, he's like the third best forward on that team. But every time he's out of the lineup, the Devils are no longer a relevant team.
That is true.
And then he comes into the lineup and the Devils are a relevant team. So eventually the sample size gets large enough that it's like, you might not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
I mean, no, that's all good points. It's just like, and see, the thing about it is last season, before he got hurt again, I mean, I know we say that every year. Last season before he got hurt again, I remember, like, I wish the Canes broadcast would start doing this. I mean, they've gotten better about it, but they were showing how his expected goals against had went down steadily over the course of the last few seasons. And he was at a career low of like 0.4 against per 60. And for a player who plays like him, that's not bad. That was early in the season, though, because then after that, he got hurt. And that was the end of that discussion. So it's like there's a defensive element to his game now. And that's like the one thing that stops him from being better than Heischer and Bratt, because there was a point in time where Jack Hughes was totally a defense optional player. He's not doing that now. So it's like, and then, one thing me and Devil's Joint talked about, because, there's always the whole Quinn Hughes to New Jersey thing that was just going on. And one thing I do want to talk about with this, because I want to hear your thoughts on it, but it's like, he was afraid that was going to become a very big distraction to have all three of them there. That's not like having three people named Stahl in your locker room. That's a lot more visibility having Jack, Luke, and Quinn on the team, theoretically speaking. Now, here's one thing I think about the whole thing with Quinn Hughes. If he stays in Minnesota, he will be the most legendary player that ever touched that franchise. He will be the face of it now and forever. He's got a built-in perfect D partner for him with Faber. It would be in his best interests to stay there. And when we think of Minnesota, we think of state of hockey. It's a big hockey market. That's part of the thing, though, that makes the Wild technically, in the grand scheme of NHL teams, they're not a very big market, because you have so many alternatives for hockey in Minnesota. There are thousands of people who will show up there to watch high school hockey. There's a ton of collegiate teams up there at many different levels. Junior hockey there is a big deal. There's so many alternatives there that don't require you to pay the prices to go to a Minnesota Wild game. And the game is just engraved in their culture that they have so many different ways to intake it. If they want to bring a ton of visibility to the Wild, and that visibility would belong to Quinn Hughes, in theory, he would be the face of that franchise. You're not going to go to New Jersey and do that with, one, your brother Jack there, and two, the history that they have, because you have Brodeur, Stevens, so many names there. Whereas in Minnesota, he is it.
Yeah. He is everything, and the only competition is like the guy on his team who he's going to be feeding all the time in Kaprizov. So it's like you can really change that franchise. Whereas I think there is a big circus element to Quinn Hughes to New Jersey. I think, honestly, Quinn and Jack seem highly redundant to me playing on the ice together, doing the same things. Because it's like a lot of the things that I really want Quinn Hughes to do, which is to have the puck on his stick all the time and to be a one-man transition machine, and then also to set up the offensive zone plays. But I want Jack to do all that. There's only one puck to go around. And yeah, you can have it so that, the staggered minutes kind of thing where Quinn and Jack aren't playing together a whole lot if you really want to go into that level. But then at that point, are you getting a defenseman specifically to not maximize your number one center? So that seems a little bit weird to me. I've also figured that as much as Quinn would not hate playing with his brothers, if I'm Quinn, I am looking at the fact that I would be in constant competition for ice time, not just to like beat them, but for ice time with Luke. Like Luke, I will instantly put a ceiling on Luke's career the second I go over there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do I really want to do that if I'm the older brother? I don't think I do.
No, if he's smart, he'll stay where he is.
Yeah, I think he's kind of setting up that he's going to stay where he is. Honestly, that press conference really did seem like I think he was, for vanity reasons, like most superstars, a little peeved that people were sitting here doing, I don't want to give up this guy because what if he doesn't resign? I think that legitimately pissed him off.
Mhm.
I think and it's people can get mad at it, but when you're an athlete of his caliber, when you have the kind of ambition that he can afford to have, you're looking at it's a respect thing. Like, I'll just use Philly as an example because it's convenient. They said, Michkov and Martone untouchable. Don't even call me about Quinn Hughes if one of those two dudes have to go the other way. If you're Quinn Hughes, I don't blame him at all for being like, who the hell's untouchable for me?
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense because like he knows how good he is, and he's the only one of the Hughes family that I think is legitimately as advertised. Like everything that people say about him is 110% true, and he's not a slouch defensively either. Like it's like he's not a traffic cone. Like is he gonna go out there and be as good at shutting people down as Jacob Slavin? No, but you can't expect Jacob Slavin to go out there and put up 92 points either. It's just not his game. There's more than one way to do it, but it's like I think Minnesota made a really good trade here to get him. And if they get him extended, you already know who he's going to be paired with because that pair with him and Faber, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that at the Olympics, honestly, especially considering Bill Guerin's running the show. I'm expecting to see that pair if they don't put Slavin and Faber together again. I think that it would be best for him and best for Minnesota as a market to have him there long term. So if Minnesota's got their pulse on this thing and really think that they're going to get him extended, then they won that trade. They gave up. I think that was a fair trade as far as what they gave up to get him, because the offers that other teams could have put on in place were better than what Minnesota had to offer, and they were the ones who got it done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people are worried about, or a lot of people see risk where it's like, oh, but what if he doesn't re-sign? I very much approve of teams who are willing to look at it the other way, where it's like, I see opportunity. What happens if he does re-sign?
I think
Vegas
that
is the
was
masters
Carolina's.
of this. I
Yeah,
call them like the 15 Harvey Specters in a room. They will close every deal imaginable.
I think that was a lot of Carolina's mentality with Mikko Rantanen. I really do. I think if Tulsky was a little bit more experienced, that wouldn't have went down that way. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. First year GM, so it's like he's got a if he was a year into being the guy there, I don't think that trade happens. I think that he's a little bit more patient and looks elsewhere. And then you would probably end up with something similar, picks and Natchez to Dallas for Stankoven and more picks back or something. Something like that would have went down because ultimately that was kind of the end result anyway. So yeah, I mean, I at first I was kind of like, I don't know if he's going to stay there, but now it's kind of like he has every incentive to stay there.
Exactly. Like, why wouldn't he? Their center depth is a mess, but I think you can overcome their center depth when you have the wingers they do. They have Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy, who could. Matt Boldy is interesting because he's somewhere close to a top 10 winger in the league, if you ask me.
I agree.
And then Kirill Kaprizov is like a top 2 winger in the league. So when you have wingers like that, and then you add the fact that their defensive core is outrageous now. I mean, good Lord. I thought Faber's PR was starting to exceed Faber as a player, but Faber's still a very, very good player. And Spurgeon is still somehow fantastic, even when he plays. That dude's ageless. And then Brodeen's very, very good. You had 3 very, very good defensemen on Minnesota, and now they added the second best defenseman in the world to round out their top 4. So it's like, well, close to that, whatever. That's the PR he gets, and it's close enough to accurate. Either way, you now have one of the top dogs of the position sitting atop a top 3 that was already fantastic before that. I'm pretty sure you can make do with a lot of different center options when you have that good of an ecosystem surrounding the centers.
Not to mention that'll attract a lot of centers. Like if you want to get somebody to waive a no trade clause or, get somebody in free agency or something like that. And they're like, I'm going to get to play with who? Okay. All right. I'm in. That's one of the things that I'm hoping for that Carolina could maybe just pick up the phone and be like, hey, if Robert Thomas wants to waive, let's just say theoretically wants to waive his no trade clause, it's just like there's a lot of people I think that in the St. Louis camp who have an unrealistic idea of how long it's going to take before that team is good again. And they're like, well, would you have traded Aho? I'm like, if they didn't turn the corner in 2018, 2019, you're damn right it would have been on the table. Like, it's like you have to think about that at that point. It's like, am I going to waste this guy's prime, or can I get assets for him that will make the team better sooner? If St. Louis were to theoretically trade Robert Thomas and acquire, say, Bradley Nadeau, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Felix Ungerstorm, and a first, something like that, then they accelerate what would take 5 to 7 years and knock it down to 3 to 4, maybe 5, something like that. They're taking 2-3 years off of how long it would take for them to be competitive again, because that team is not going to be good for a while. Robert Thomas is going to be literally the Lamborghini and the trailer park meme if he stays on that team.
Exactly. You have to, like, St. Louis is going to have to trade a bunch of pieces to get a support cast around a future franchise cornerstone that they have not drafted yet. And that is going to require probably multiple top 3 picks. Usually that's what it requires. Sometimes you get lucky, but you don't always get lucky. So if I'm St. Louis, I am preparing. I am going to need to find that franchise cornerstone. That could take 2 or 3 times picking very, very high. And then after I do that, I'm going to have to wait 2 to 3 years for that franchise cornerstone to develop into what we know he can be. So all of a sudden, let's say it takes 2 years to get him and then 2 years for him to get to where he needs to be. That's 4 years right there. That's Robert Thomas's prime, or at least 80% of it.
And his whole contract.
Yeah, and his whole contract. So it's like, what are you doing keeping him at that point?
Yeah, I can't believe they think they're going to make a couple of hockey trades and that team's going to be competitive again. That's just not.
It's outrageous. I mean,
it is.
Look at, I think Vancouver did very well for themselves, not just.
I do too.
Because the way I look at it is they now have a lot of pieces that are going to be a very good supporting cast for when they do bring in that franchise cornerstone. If they land McKenna or Stenberg this year, and they bring that guy in, and now all of a sudden maybe they're good again in 2 or 3 years. They turned a rebuild that should have took 6 into 3. St. Louis could do the same thing. And for whatever reason, they just seem reluctant to do it. And it's going to take something that should have taken 6 years and turn it into a dark ages of 10.
Yeah, and I've lived through that, so I know what that's like. It's like, Rutherford, that's why I'm praying for my friends in Vancouver that Rutherford learned how to do rebuilds, because he sure as hell didn't do a good job in Carolina. And then, Francis, for all of his faults, he wasn't given much to work with by the time that he was the GM. But I'm sitting there and I look back at that and I'm like, okay, what do you do in this situation? It's 2010. If your name is Eric Stahl, Jeff Skinner, or Cam Ward, don't touch them. Everybody else, though, Ruutu, Jokinen, like, you could have got so much more for a lot of those guys. Ruutu got cap dumped for Andrei Loktionov, who went to the KHL next year anyway and already had a deal in place to go play in the KHL, I believe, for Locomotive when Ruutu was traded for him. Jokinen, I think they got 2 conditional picks for him or something. Like, they could have gotten a lot if they had done that sooner, but the trade value of those guys diminished from him not doing it sooner. Rutherford looks like he's a little bit more ahead of it this time with the Quinn Hughes trade, and I'm waiting on the EP40 one to go down. I just don't know where he's going.
He has to go.
Yeah, it's like, if
I
you're
would
going to
want
rebuild,
him
he has to.
terribly for Philly if we didn't have the Antichrist.
Yeah, it's just because he already. Yeah, that's the one thing. I would wonder how that would go down, but I don't think Tocchet would ever want him.
Tocchet would never want him, but I look at what Elias Pettersson needs as a player, and it's like, look at how good he did with Andrei Kuzmenko. And yeah, you know what? There's a little bit of fortune on their side there, no question. But they also created some of their shooting luck. So I don't know how much was A and how much was B. But that is almost irrelevant, because just take Kuzmenko and put him on super soldier serum. And that's basically Michkov in his prime. So it's like, I need these two together, because that sounds ridiculously cinematic. I would enjoy hockey again. I would enjoy life again. I would become that LeBron James meme. Like, I can't believe this is my life right now.
Where he's doing that. See, that's my one thing. The only thing that scares me off about Pettersson specifically to the Canes, because they tried to get him before. They came very close. It got to the point where they said, hey, negotiate an extension or we're going to trade you. And that's not coming from me. Elliot Friedman said that. So they clearly liked him. The 11.6 part doesn't bother me. Carolina can move out one player and cover that. It's the term. Once you make that decision, you have to live with it.
Yeah.
That's where my holdup with Elias Pettersson is for Carolina.
I was a little more 50-50 on him before this year. I think people are underrating how spectacular he's been this year. And he has had almost outlier level defensive deployments where it's like that dude is practically living in his defensive zone.
He wouldn't have to worry about that in Carolina or Philly for that matter.
Yeah. He's living in his defensive zone. And not only is he actually defending and doing a very good job of it, he's doing all the Elias Pettersson stuff more or less that he usually does. He's been a little over a point per game ever since he took that like 8 games to warm up, and then he was 16 games of well over a point per game, and then he got hurt. But I look at that, I see a player who's back to probably conservatively his 80-ish point self, who could easily, in the right environment, be the 100-point guy again. Especially because like the defensive deployment he's living under, a lot of it is sometimes overstated, where it's like if you're in the 70th percentile of competition, I don't think it changes that much from when you're in the 50th percentile or whatever. But these extreme outliers where it's like this dude's taking every defensive zone shift known to man, that is hell on a player. Like Maurice Sider and the analytics journey of Maurice Sider, all of a sudden he's getting normal number 1 defenseman deployment this year, and his analytics say he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
That's basically a good example of it. I think it's a little worse for defensemen, but it's the same story with forwards, where there is a level of matchup difficulty where it's just going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. I think we've seen it with Pettersson. The thing is, that back's so strong, he still looks really good even with that. So I would be very excited as almost any team to acquire him. The big thing, even if the Antichrist did not exist in Philly, I would somewhat understand the whole "are you a Pettersson away" idea. My answer is like probably not, but I'm a lot closer with a Pettersson than without him.
Yeah.
Whereas with Carolina's, it's like, are you a Pettersson away? Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where, like I said, my only holdup is the term, because if it doesn't work out, you have to live with it.
Right.
And we've never seen him play anywhere else, so we don't know what the change of scenery effect will do to him. Part of the reason I held out so much hope for Jesperi Kotkaniemi is I saw his play take an upward turn after he came from Montreal to Carolina after a while, and then he fell off a cliff again. And I think him and Rod don't see eye to eye on stuff. I think that's a contributing factor as well. And it's just like, I want him to get out of here so he can go somewhere where he'll actually, get to play and fill a role that he's made for. He's not going to get that opportunity with the Canes, I'm afraid. So, but yeah, it's like EP40, the player doesn't scare me. EP40, the contract scares me a little bit.
Yes. There is a little bit of an upside to the contract, to where if he's the player that he looks like this year, he's definitely worth his money. And then as the term continues and as this cap keeps going up and as the contracts keep getting crazier, all of a sudden that term almost becomes a benefit, as long as the player works out to where you're almost underpaying Pettersson in 5 years.
That's a good point. And, he wouldn't have to kill penalties with Carolina because they've already got 10 guys, 10 forwards who can do it. So it's like, I would love to, like, in theory, if Carolina got him, I would love to rebuild the power play, the top unit in particular around him. That's one thing I think he could be really good for. And, last I looked, I don't know if this is the case. He's still near the top, at least. He was leading forwards in shots blocked last I looked in the entire league. So, it's like there's definitely more good there than bad. But like you said, the percentage of the cap that he would take up in 5 years is going to be nothing.
Exactly. So there's a lot of upside there, where it's like there are a lot of people going to be signed to $10 to $12 million year deals. Didn't Bennett get like 10? No, he didn't get 10.
Who
Sam
got
Bennett.
Sam Bennett got nine something, I believe.
Yeah, and obviously he's a little bit of a unique situation because of his playoff reputation, but it does kind of give you a glimpse into where this thing is going, to where Elias Pettersson could be making high-end 2C money in 5 years. And if he's the guy that he looks like right now, he's a 1C. And now, you made a really good point about this with Sebastian Aho, where it's like, Is Sebastian Aho still a 1C if Elias Pettersson comes to Carolina and really works out? The answer is yes, because if you put Sebastian Aho on most NHL teams, he's a 1C. You would have 2 1Cs at that point.
Yes. That's what I would do. It would be a 1A 1B situation. It would be very situational who you deploy where. Like, what do you need in that particular play? That's when you decide who goes out there. And, it's like Carolina's power play is so bad that we've had to go vintage with it and put Jordan Staal out there just to win the faceoff, because Aho he either goes there, he gets waved out so much lately. I think that he's afraid to be aggressive in the faceoffs, and that's why he's losing so many of them, especially on the power play, because when you're on the power play, when you're usually facing off against the best faceoff guys the other team has. So those guys are typically your go-to penalty killers at the start. And those are hard faceoffs to win. They're very difficult. It's not like back in the day where it was just a bunch of bottom 6 forwards and your top bottom pair that killed penalties. Now your best players are out there doing it. So there's all that to be considered and everything. But my friend, this has been fun, but it is getting close to 9 o'clock. But this has been an excellent discussion. We will most certainly do this again.
Yeah, it's been awesome. A great time. 2 hours passed. Half the Flyers game's probably over, if not more. And
they play tonight?
A couple times. Yeah, they are. I think it was 3-1 last I snuck a peek. Let's see. Yeah, they are 3-1 at the end of the second. Hey, nice Michkov point.
Who'd they play?
Montreal.
Okay.
1 Michkov point, 0 Demidov points.
Yeah, see, I'm like in between on Demidov.
It's such a stupid rivalry, but it's funny.
It is, and it's like I expected Demidov to be so much better than what he's actually been so far.
I know, and like the points,
it's kind of a disappointment. I mean, he'll come out of it, I'm sure, but like I was expecting a much better start from him, but he's hardly in the Calder discussion at all right now.
And it's funny because his percentages are insane.
Yeah, Schaefer's going to get the Calder anyway,
right?
Schaefer's got that locked pretty much.
Yeah, he's already won it. He deliver him the award at this point. But with Demidov, what I see is a lot more of. I see all the skill and all the talent. I don't think he has as much of a natural, intuitive sense of how to deliver that talent into creating scoring chances. Like his analytics basically say that Montreal is a kind of low event team when he's on the ice, where it's like his defensive numbers are pretty good, but his offensive numbers are closer to middling, his offensive impacts. I think the reason that is because he has the puck so much and he's always doing something with the puck. But what he's not doing with the puck is directing it to the net from either himself or his teammates. So there's not really offense happening. It's just the coolest dead air you've ever experienced. That's basically like the average Demidov shift, where it's like, okay, nothing happened from a statistical standpoint, but damn, did he do some cool stuff. I think he'll work that out as you go. It's a very interesting dive into the difference between high-end hockey sense and truly elite top-of-the-shelf hockey sense, where it's like, because I think Demidov has a very good brain. I don't think he has like elite top-of-the-class hockey sense, where like on the elite prospects grade, I think they have him at like an 8. I have him at closer to a 7 in that category. And that is the difference, in my view, of between guys who are at a 7 and guys who are at an 8 and 9, to where they are just going to instantly look like they are veteran attackers, like step into the league looking like a veteran offensive player. Very fun player to watch, very interesting player to watch, but also need that 1-0 streak to continue to honor the stupidest rivalry of all time.
Yeah, who even came up with that?
That whole thing was basically based on, all right, so Montreal passes on Michkov and it becomes a whole thing. And there was stages of grief for Montreal. Like they were very, very tragic. And then Demidov comes in. And it's like, their thing is, if we get Demidov, then passing on Michkov is okay. And they did this for like a year. And then they actually do get Demidov. And now that they got him, it's like, not only is it now okay, no, it worked out better this way because Demidov is the better player, because Montreal passed on Michkov because they knew, they galaxy brained it. They said, okay, we're going to be picking 5th overall a year later, and we are going to be able to draft Ivan Demidov, but we are only going to be able to be in this unique opportunity if we don't draft Michkov. And so that's what I was sitting there like, that is the most retarded shit I've ever heard on a number of levels. First of all, you can have both dipshits.
How the fuck did they draw that conclusion? That's like, I thought their whole thing with like, I mean, I've heard all this before because you remember the strangeness that was the 2019 draft where, you know, Philip Zadina, who's no longer in the league, was the consensus third overall pick. They took Kokaniemi and everyone's like, oh, why the fuck did you do that? And then 5 minutes later, well, Kokaniemi's better than Aho. Like, because he didn't ultimately get, you know, end up there because of the offer sheet, which I had to show somebody today that they were like, why is the fan base so forgiving of him signing that offer sheet? I'm like, he didn't know about it. Like, you know, there was an article about it I had to pull up. I'm like, no, he was in Stockholm doing sponsor stuff with Warrior because they have the gear brand because they have a really big presence there, and he was sponsored by them at the time. And he didn't even know about it. He's like, it just happened like really quick. It's like, I don't think people understand that agents have a lot more control over these dudes than they do of themselves in a lot of situations, unless you're like, i.e. Quinn Hughes, where you're probably like, if you fuck up Sebastian Aho's contract in his third year in the league, you'll still find work. If you fuck over Quinn Hughes, your career is over.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And some players have more business savvy and more interest in that lens than others. So, like, even Sebastian Aho nowadays might be in a similar situation where it's like, oh, is that my contract? I didn't even know.
Yeah, and he
money
changed
just
his
appears
agent.
in my bank account.
He changed his agent after that too, because Jerry, what's his name? Gary Johansson or whoever his name is, the one that has like half the NHL. He was his agent then, and now he's got another guy who he actually knows that, I believe he knows him. He's Finnish, his agent. I can't remember his name. It's Antti something. I don't want to accidentally say Antti Ranta and make myself look stupid. So I don't remember the name, but he's got a different agent now that's actually Finnish as well. But that was after that all went down. He got a new agent. So he clearly was not happy with it. He just didn't make a big public fuss about it because he's just not that guy. That's not his thing. He's very much to himself. That's why it's like when people like know things about him, I'm surprised. I'm like, wait, he talks? Like that's just I'm not used to that.
I thought he was a mute human.
Dude, I really did, because the funniest story I ever heard about him, though, this is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll call it a night, because I'll get through the rest of the comments here, but I won't make you sit through that because
we'll get to 2 hours even.
Yeah, we'll get to 2 hours even. There was a story. I was watching the World Juniors a few years ago, and this was after Aho's already in Carolina and everything like that. Like, he's been in the league for a couple of years, and Ray Ferraro and Gord Miller, as always, are doing the World Juniors game, or it might have been the World Championship, one of the two. I want to say it was a World Championship game. And they're talking about like they're at whatever arena they're at, and they're down there and they see this kid that looks like he's 12 years old, and they're asking him if he's lost. And it turned out it was Aho. Like, he had his credentials on him and everything, but he didn't speak any English or anything like that. So they're like trying to figure out who he is. So he had to show them like his credentials for them to figure out who he was. They thought he was a lost child because he looked so young, but like, it's just, you can even tell like by the way he is in interviews, he's a quiet guy. He doesn't say much. Now, behind closed doors, I imagine that, see, that's where I get into a big discussion with people about stuff. There's a lot of people who say that Slavin should be the next captain, and I want Aho to be the next captain. The reason being is because you have a good cop, bad cop dynamic there. Slavin won't go in the locker room and yell, "Hey, you motherfuckers, you're playing like shit." Like, Aho will. Like, the one thing that is publicly known about him is that he's competitive. Aho's the guy that goes in there and breaks him down and tells him, you suck at life. Everyone hates you. Your jokes aren't funny. Not literally, but you know what I mean. And then when he's done chewing,
sometimes that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it would be. It's just like he chews their ass for a couple of minutes and he goes off to do whatever during the intermission. And then Slavin comes in there and calms the waters and everybody goes back out there and plays. That's the dynamic I want. But as far as someone who's going to go in the locker room, and including somebody who's going to do something on the ice to fire them up, I expect Aho to be that guy a lot more than Slavin. Someone who's going to go out there and score a critical goal or set up a critical play or something like that. That's Aho. The guy who's going to go in the locker room and be like, "Hey, you guys are playing like shit. You need to get it together." That's Aho. Slavin's not going to be like that. He'll give them that message, but not with the heaviness it probably needs to be given sometimes.
Yeah, you go to Slavin to talk about how much Aho was annoying you 5 minutes ago,
Yeah,
and
and he'll be like, "It's
Slavin will
okay,
give
let's
you
get
the
calmed
same
down."
message, but also calm you down in the process.
Yeah,
But
he's a
yeah,
lot more
you
diplomatic, but I was like,
Mhm.
if I need somebody to go in there and hit somebody with a hammer, figuratively, I want Aho to do that.
Or literally, and if Svechnikov has had his 8th horrible game consecutively.
He's been good since that day. It's like every time I get to the send this person to China thing, they start playing better. So I try and save that for extreme circumstances. When I've given up on a player, that's when I'm like, okay, go to China. That's enough. Like that was it. Took Scott Morrow. It took one shift for me to be done with him. It wasn't all the bad turnovers. It wasn't the dog pog. He had a perfect opportunity to lay Matthew Tkachuk out, who was playing at like 50%. Everyone knew how hurt he was. And he just skated right the fuck by him, and you could see the fear in his eyes when he did it. And I'm like, get him out. I'm done.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I could have
no, that's
forgiven
unacceptable.
everything if he had finished that hit. Like that
Yeah.
evens that series up a lot more. And he's just like,
Mhm.
never mind, I'm good. I'm like, no, get him out. Done.
Yeah, hell no. You need to be doing that sort of thing, especially if you are going to be a, let's just say, colorful player with the puck. I think that's part of like how Matthew Tkachuk gets away with being, let's just say, one of the league's most adventurous players with a puck, because Matthew Tkachuk is one of the best playmakers in the league. The problem is he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And he is his when he's on the ice, even at full strength, Florida is a lot less domineering and a whole lot more high event, 100 miles an hour both ways hockey. And I think one of the reasons that people are so forgiving of that is because not only will Kachuk do that for you and put up a lot of points, but he will also just steamroll somebody if he has to.
And he's got the psychological warfare aspect too, because I remember watching that show or whatever it is where he's got the microphone on and he's skating by Carolina's bench and he's like, "You've quit on your team, you've quit on your coach, you've quit on your captain, you've quit on your city, and you fucking quit on each other." And I'm like, people hate him for that, but he knows that's his role. I would love to have somebody with that psychological warfare element on Carolina who's like,
Especially when
how
he's
can I
so
get in
good
their
at it.
heads?
Like Brad Marchand is a similar thing where it's like when you are that good at it, man, I have nothing but respect.
Yeah, like to come up with stuff like that on the fly, it's like I would have to sit there for days and come up with something like that. Him, 5 seconds, and he knows
It's
how to
just there.
just absolutely tear everybody on that bench down.
Like his vision on the ice is exceeded only by his vision for destroying people psychologically.
Yeah, that says something. My friend, this has been fun, but I do have to be up early. I need to go to the gym tomorrow.
All
This
right.
has been excellent. We will do this again. Everybody, I'm sorry that I didn't get to the comments. Please, next stream I do, save them. I will answer them. Just copy and paste what you got right now if you want to, and I will make sure to pay attention to that. Derek, thank you very much again for joining me, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we will definitely do this again. Good night, everybody. Let me kill the stream here.